Good evening, Nick family. Welcome to the Queen's Court. I'm here with Tony Crow from Knicks and Bruises, as well as Josh, aka Uncle Fulio from The Controversy, right here on the MBK channel. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. If you like what you're hearing, like the video and hit that notification button as well so that you'll be notified anytime anything goes down on the MBK channel. The phone lines are open, ladies and gentlemen. So if you agree or disagree with what I take, you could definitely call in and let us know how you feel about it. I'm still looking for women to be on the panel as well. I would like a diverse panel, gender, age. So if you 18, 17, or whatever, you feel like you know the Knicks and you have an opinion, definitely come on. Would love a diverse panel. And listen, don't be intimidated. Like I talk to Knicks fans all the time who have really good takes. It's just your opinion. For example, Mitchell Robinson, would you extend him or not? It's just your opinion. How much would you pay him? It's just your opinion. So we easy over here. If you have a divergent opinion, it's okay. So we'd love to have you, but definitely call in. Today we're going to go over the Knicks preseason schedule. We're going to talk a little bit about the 75th anniversary of the NBA. They're picking an NBA team, 75 players. We're going to talk a little bit about that. On the 50th anniversary, I think there were 4 Knicks if you count Earl Monroe. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then we're going to continue with our roster comparison. We finished 4th. Last week, we did the 5th and 6th seed, which was Atlanta and Miami. This week, we're going to do the 7th and 8th seed, which was Boston and Washington. I was surprised. Like when I was looking it up, I was like, wow, Washington did, make that run at the end and finished in the 8th seed. So we'll talk about that. I think it's easy for us to say, oh, the Knicks are going to finish here, there, but you really got to look at the other teams' rosters and see the changes that they made, and that allows us to make a more informed decision. So let's get right to it, fellas. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me again. Shout out to the chat. Go Black is time.
What's going on, Queen? Tony, good to see you guys again. Always a pleasure getting on here, and I'm just excited for what this team has to offer this season. I can't wait. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, definitely, no doubt. The preseason schedule is out. I should have made a slide, but it's out. We have 4 games. We play the Pacers. We play Detroit, and this got cut off. That home and away, is that Washington? Okay, home and away with Washington. We're gonna go over their roster today. So what are you looking for in the preseason and those preseason games, or who are you looking at, if anybody, in those preseason games? Josh, I'll start with you.
So as always in preseason, people say that the games don't matter, which is true. The games truly don't matter, but for the team itself, those games matter, particularly for the second half of the roster, getting that playing time. Last season, we were able to find out who Emmanuel Quickley was because of the preseason, right? We gave Dennis Smith Jr. his minutes at point guard. Didn't work out. Frank Ntilikina didn't work out, and then Emmanuel Quickley came out of nowhere and took over that role as the backup point guard.
Right.
So there's a lot of things that we can be able to find out with this team in the preseason, particularly for those younger guys, and seeing how they're going to be able to mesh and gel, and just really getting their feet wet in front of a crowd, in front of the Garden crowd. So that's all stuff we should look forward to for the preseason.
Yeah, Tony.
Josh, I'm surprised you did not mention Jericho Sims, because Jericho Sims is the guy that I am looking forward to figuring out. Is he going to take Luka's spot? Is he going to earn a main roster spot? So between that, being one of the most intriguing things for me, and then Kevin Knox. Is he going to earn some rotation minutes? Because right now it's going to start in preseason to know where he fits on his roster, where he fits in the rotation, or is he relegated to the situational lineup, and is he stuck there? So those are the 2 things. Besides the main things, those are the 2 things that I think we'll get some answers to in those preseason games.
Yeah, I think what I'm looking forward to is our offense. I'm looking forward to our offense, how diverse it is, and I'm also looking forward to seeing if we're going to push the pace some. Right? Are we going to be just a half court team? I mean, we could be half court, but are we going to try to get some transition baskets? So I'm looking forward to that. I don't know if I could read too much into the rotation. I remember last preseason, Dennis Smith got a lot of minutes. And then when the season started, he didn't play. So I don't know how much I can read into that. I think they may want to take a look at some things, maybe play quickly at the point guard a little more like they did in the summer league. But I really want to see this offense. I really do not want to see it running strictly through Randall. Obviously, he has better options if we do that, but we got more playmakers, so I would like to see that. And I would like to see more pick and roll with Julius as the roll man, right? Kemba can initiate the pick and roll. Fournier can do it as well. So I'm looking forward to that. I don't really care whether we win or lose.
Can I ask a hypothetical question? Okay. I would have to ask a hypothetical question though, because I think this is I think this is going to be a concern for us moving forward until we actually see Kemba play and Derrick Rose play. Is there any chance that you think that the Knicks sit Kemba and or Derrick Rose in the preseason because of injury concerns and their history?
No, I don't think so.
I think they would. I mean, this is something Tony and I was talking about just in terms of Tibbs' style. Right out the gate, he might have his whole starting lineup in the rotation and right from the gate. I don't think so. But I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind Rose playing in maybe 2 of these games, Kemba playing in 2 of these games. I wouldn't mind. They're going to be practicing, right? So they're going to be putting time in there. I wouldn't mind it, but with Tibbs, I'm not sure he does it.
So the slim possibility that does happen, maybe because it's preseason. Similar to what you said, how we seen Dennis Smith Jr. early. Maybe we'll want to see some of McBride early, just to know what we have in that situation. And also based off of that comment, I think that I think we saw Dennis Smith Jr. with the full intent of him getting those minutes that we saw him in. He just didn't perform, and then. In IQ's case, we seen him and he performed, which made him more eligible to get the minutes that he got throughout the season. So I think the preseason will dictate, maybe not like a starting spot but it'll dictate your pecking order in the rotation. It'll dictate if you're situational, but with more of a chance of getting an opportunity, or situational as in we only going to use you when we don't have another choice. So, that's why I'm really big on seeing what Knox provides in this situation. And yeah, I think if we see McBride, maybe we see McBride. Maybe he does what you said, Josh, just so we could get a look at McBride, just to figure out where he is in the pecking order.
So I agree with all of that, but I do think they limit Kemba a lot. I feel like they're going to probably give him maybe 10 minutes, if that, in some of these preseason games. They're going to try. I feel like they're going to try to bring him back slowly, and I think that would be the smart thing for them to do, is to bring him along slowly. He missed a ton of time last season, and Boston brought him along slowly as well after he got the shot in his knee and what so happened. So I think that the Knicks are going to bring Kemba along slowly. You probably won't see Kemba doing more than 20 minutes until we get a little bit into the season. And it's unfortunate because, we all want to see him play. We need to have that point guard out there. But I think for injury concerns, the Knicks are going to be really slow with him.
Josh, I agree with you, but Tibbs seemed to be on his own thing. So I really hope that they sit down with him before the season and let him know, listen, we know how you love consistency. You love, having the same rotation, the same minutes and things like that. And you don't really like to deviate. But given, Kimba's history, recent history, let's take it slow, let's do this, let's do that, and hopefully he listens, because he plays these guys like they're not 36 years old or however old Taj is. Like, they don't have, like, in the playoffs. I mean, maybe it was the playoffs with Rose. He just went for broke, and by the what was it, the fifth game, Rose could barely play. So, hopefully he does do that. And you know what? A lot of, we don't really know how Kimber is going to be, right? Maybe the Knicks know something about his health that we don't, because Tibbs did say he was playing in back-to-backs. I don't know if that was just Tibbs being Tibbs, or if he had inside information that, he's pretty much healthy and he can play back-to-backs. That remains to be seen. Let me just shout the chat out a little bit. Sherwin M, appreciate you. Mike Morgan, Canal Band Lawyer, appreciate you. Evergreen, appreciate you. Kerry Cox, I agree with you, Kerry Cox. He said we're a 3rd to 6th seed team, depending on health, and the surprise player will be Knox. I want to say something about that. Shout out to Mike Johnson.
3rd. I don't know about 3rd.
Well, I have a question. I have a question about that.
Floating around.
Yeah. Shot Powers, appreciate you. Stephadon, Fahim Khan, all of you, appreciate you guys. I see some of you are with me every week. I am Jarrell, appreciate you. And all of you pretty much are in most, if not all, of the MBK chats. I appreciate you. The reason why I agree with that. I've said that, like, where the Knicks finish has a lot to do with health, has a lot to do with how they gel. And I guess this is for any team, has a lot to do with whether they gel or not. But if a few guys pop, Josh, I think we do have an opportunity to fish through.
No question.
But it would have to be like Mitchell Robinson becoming like a defensive demon. Right? Like, if he just becomes that double guy, 2 blocks a game, 12, 13 rebounds a game, 10 points a game, and just really locking down the paint, that bodes well for us. And if Kemba is Kemba and there's no restrictions in terms of back-to-backs or minute restrictions, and you basically just restricting his minutes because you want Rose to play and get minutes, not because of, then this is a different Knicks team.
Steph, I'll do you one better. How about RJ Barrett turning into an all-star? Because a lot of people were talking about RJ Barrett when, he's playing so well. Next season is going to be his season to become an all-star. Clyde Frazier said it. If RJ Barrett actually becomes that go-to person outside of Randall that I've been hoping and praying for him to become last season, that he didn't turn out to be, then I think we'll have something cooking here. But until we see that, I don't think. I think 3rd is a little bit.
But I don't even think it has to be. I don't even think it has to be RJ. But it has to be somebody, because I think on this team, I mean, listen, RJ can definitely surprise me. I think Fournier is going to be our second leading scorer. I think he's going to. Mm-hmm.
Well, the reason why I say RJ Barrett is because RJ Barrett, him and Randall were like tops in the league in minutes last season. So RJ Barrett's going to play, and Fournier, I don't know exactly how many minutes he's averaging or whatever the case may be, but, RJ Barrett, to me, I think, him being the second best player on this team last season, if he continues to, progress and take that step towards, what I would like to see him become, I think then we'll have something. And of course, it could be someone else. It could be, Evan Fournier. It could be Kemba Walker if Kemba Walker's healthy. But at the same time, I just think RJ Barrett, for this particular team, RJ Barrett is the person I want to see, go to the next.
I think you're going to be disappointed, Josh.
And I think
in the pecking order, I don't think he's going to be as high.
I agree. I think ultimately it works in our favor, though. I think the same way. I love the fact that we have 3 rookies that don't necessarily have to get the minutes and have to be thrown in crucial situations to grow. Like they could grow on their own pace. I think this helps RJ. It takes pressure off of him. I don't think he's one. I think he's actually dropped to the 4th option ultimately, but in a good way. And if his efficiency goes up, I think he can maintain the same points that he's been giving us the past 2 years, and with less shots and with less pressure. I think he's the one guy that's actually going to get open looks. I think he's the guy that the other team is going to help off of before they help off of a Kemba Walker, before they help off of a Evan Fournier, before they help off of a Julius Randle. Is going to be RJ now. So he's gonna not saying that they're gonna guard the team the same way they did with Peyton on the floor, but those same looks that Peyton was getting, that's what RJ's gonna get now. Like he's gonna be the odd man left open. So if he could just remain or improve his efficiency, then I think sky's the limit for him. And it's no pressure on him. You know what I mean? It's really just hit open shots, drives and cuts, because you're going to get easier shots off of that now. Take advantage of the spacing. And I think sky's the limit for him, but without the pressure of him being a number 2 guy.
I get it. So I put too much pressure on him. I understand. Let's baby him some more.
Right. But I'm just saying the other.
I mean, we're talking about proven guys, though. Yeah, we're talking about proven guys. Walker is proven to lead a team of lesser guys than we have right now to the playoffs. He's done it, twice with Charlotte. He's gotten to better situations as well. Fournier, same thing. Number 2 guy. If I argue number 1, but number 2 guy on a playoff team of lesser caliber guys than are on the Knicks right now. So you gotta, if you're just using logic and history and what they've shown so far, these guys are higher in the pecking order than RJ, and to me that's a good thing. That's not taking anything away from RJ. It's less pressure on him, so more opportunity in my book.
Right. What do you think, Chat? Do you think that RJ is going to have less usage with the arrival of Kemba and Fournier, or do you think he's still going to be the second option and those guys are going to fall in behind him? Let us know what you think. All right, let's move on. I wonder if somebody mentioned this already. Tim Smith, like he was in my notes. How did you? Or is that scrolling along the bottom? No, it's not. Anyway, I want to talk about the NBA 75th anniversary. As many of you know, and some of you may not know, they're going to do what they did on their 50th anniversary, which is to pick the 75 best players in NBA history. Now, if you remember the 50th anniversary team, there were 4 Knicks on that team if you count Earl Monroe. He played with Washington. There was 5. I'm missing one. I may be missing. Bernard King wasn't on there.
Yeah, he was.
He wasn't. I was just looking. I have the list right here.
Okay, maybe I'm wrong. Okay.
Yeah.
No.
So Patrick Ewing, Clyde Frazier, Dave DeBusschere, and Earl of Pearl Monroe, who played some time in Washington. So I guess the question I have for the panel, I have a few questions, is should they make the 75th team again? And is there any other Knick great that you think should make this team?
Well, I gave you mine already. I guess I can concur with Josh. Like, how's Bernard King not on that list? So,
it's a lot. They only have 50, but now they got 75. But it's been 25 more years.
Yeah,
it's been 25 more years. So I think
Bernard has to go there before Melo, right?
Yeah. I would say yes. But I don't think would Melo go there as a Knick. I mean, he would just.
I mean, I don't think you go as a particular,
as a particular
team.
Right? You would just be. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So to answer your question, Tone, no, Bernard King is not better than Carmelo Anthony, in my opinion. He's not better than Carmelo Anthony. But as far as Knicks great, because a lot of people don't consider Melo a Knick great, I still do.
Right.
I'm going with Bernard King, and I think both of them will make it. To be honest with you. So
right. And in terms of them, I mean, one of the arguments in terms of them picking this team was, should the 50 that were on the first team, should they remain on it and then pick 25 other players, or should they just start from scratch? And some of those that made the 50th team may not make the 75th anniversary team. What do you think about that approach? Or which approach would you prefer?
I like the adding of 25 more.
I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. I think, if you take players off the list now, and, the list is only going to get bigger as the years go on. I just think they should keep those 50 intact, show respect to the guys who paved the way for some of these guys today and leave them on there and just add 25 new players. I mean, it's going to be hard to try to fit 25 players in, but like I said, this list is going to be, constantly growing. So I would just do it that way.
I think I'm okay with them taking some players off. Because I would say that you may have been, one of the 50th best NBA players 25 years ago. But now are you one of the 75 best players now, 25 years later? So I'm okay with that. I don't see any of the Knicks in being taken off. I would be surprised. I would say, but it is possible, and I agree that Bernard King. I mean, we're only talking about the Knicks. I mean, if you're just talking about players in general, yeah, I think that Carmelo Anthony will probably make this team. But focusing on the Knicks, I would like to see Bernard King. Yes.
The only reason I don't think it's fair to take people off the list, because I think ultimately, as the league grows, as the technology changes, as time passes, the older people that were on the list, they're not going to be able to compete with the newer athleticism, the newer NBA bodies, the newer nuances of technology, which prolongs careers and such. So I think just adding the players as time goes on is more fair. It's almost like when people have that argument of comparing generations. It's hard to compare what the teams that were playing in black and white and dribbling with one hand, and of course none of those guys would last in today's league. You know what I mean? So I think to take them off a list is taken away from their greatness at that time. Because ultimately they're only going to move down and down and further down.
I mean, yeah, that's kind of how it happened. But I just wanted nothing but Knicks, which is Sim. Just like breaking records, players move down over the years. And he also said, if you just add 25 new players, you might miss a new player that is better than the old top 50. And that's a concern, of mine as well. It's 75 new players. You may have been great when we was just talking about 50.
Okay.
But I just want to say one other thing. I don't think it's about comparing an older player to players in this era. It's how great were you in your era, right? And I don't think that anybody. I think that stands for all time. Like Bob Cousy was great in his era. So if I'm looking at, for example, Jason Kidd, I'm not going to say, well, is Jason Kidd better than Bob Cousy? I'm going to say, how great was Jason Kidd in his era compared to Bob Cousy in his, right? Not that it's going to come down to those two, but I'm just saying that's what I would do, because I agree. If people are voting with that mindset, like, oh, those guys couldn't play today, you're right. All of them guys would be would be off the team. So I'm hoping that the voting is a little more nuanced than that. But go ahead, Tony. You wanted to say something.
basically, if you're doing a whole new list, and then if you were on the previous list, you can't be included on the new list. Then
No, you can.
No, well, I think that would be more fair, because now you're just, you know what I mean, you're starting a whole new list. Now that first list is solidified. This spot can't be taken, and you know what I mean, and then you. I think that would be more fair. I just don't think it's you know, as life goes on, we get better as people anyway. So I think it's really just taken away. I don't know. I guess we're gonna agree to disagree on this one, because I just think you're taking away from the previous generation or generations legacy.
Well, it's going to be difficult to find outside of the 50 that you already have that you don't include in the new list. It's going to be hard to find 125 players or whatever that's not even on the first 50 that already came out 20 some years ago. So to me personally, I disagree with Sim, because records are meant to be broken. Those are stats. Numbers are meant to be broken. This is just a general list, and I feel like by taking players off the original list, you just open up a whole can of worms. Because I promise you, there's going to be some old guy. I mean, I don't want to say old. Some elder statesman out there who feels like Larry Bird is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And we're living in an era right now of LeBron James, right? And a lot of people say LeBron James is better than Larry Bird, but I've spoken to a lot of people throughout my lifetime that say LeBron James couldn't hold a candle to Larry Bird. You know what I'm saying? So it just opens up a whole new can of worms. I feel like, we can find 25 great NBA players since the last list came out and add them to the list to make the list.
We can, but I think there might be more than 25. And so now this guy can't make the team, and they're better than somebody that made that original team, right? That people are getting left off the team who are legitimately better, right? Maybe there are 25 better players since that time. So I think that's the concern. And I think that as time goes on, some people are going to be better than other people, and some players are going to have better careers than others. And again, I'm hoping that when they're voting is more nuanced than, this guy is faster than that guy, and this guy played in a tougher era, and this guy. I mean, I hope it's more nuanced than that, because in those 80s and 90s, hand checking, all of that was allowed. You got every basket. You earned every basket you got. So I think you're right. It depends on who's voting, and you're right. If you get like people who don't appreciate those guys, they would easily. I have the list right here, so I could see somebody easily saying Dave Cowens, shouldn't be on the list. I could easily see somebody. Oh, Willis Reed. Willis Reed was on the list. I didn't mention Willis Reed, so maybe it was 5. I didn't mention Willis Reed, so that is 5. So I think so, but I just feel like some players are better, But let me see what the chat. No, I think it's about breaking down the eras. From 1996 to 2021, who are the top 25 players? So basically what you guys are saying,
But that goes along also with what you're saying, because you're saying that if you don't take people out of the top 50, then there's going to be a lot of people competing for that last 25, and that's how it should be.
Yeah, I agree.
In the top 50, there were players that didn't make the list that potentially should have got on, like Bernard King or whatever, but he just didn't make it. There was Larry Bird's better than him, and other small forwards, George Gervin, or what have you. So
I think that's fair.
And this is the thing, though. Those guys who didn't make the 50th are eligible to make this 2015. So it's not even going to be from then to now who are 25. People may go back and try to correct mistakes, right? Dominique Wilkins didn't make that team. There was a few other players as well. Right. So if they're keeping these 50 and they're going to put some of those guys who they felt like should have been on the team, it's going to be really hard for other than the elite players in the last 25 years to make that team. So this is what Nothing but Knicks. Exactly. Those guys are eligible. Neek will definitely be on it. Kerry Cox, Jack Sigma, Jose Afanato. I hope I said your name right. No, no to Terry Cummins. Somebody said Terry Cummins. Let me see. Intangibles matter. That doesn't show in the stats. Tim Smith, listen, I agree with you, but I think on this list, if you come in with just intangibles, you're not gonna make it because it's so tight, right? Yeah. A baller is a baller. Bird had no athleticism and still would ball out, especially, with picks and things. There's people who are slow. That's another thing. Oh, these guys couldn't play in this era. Look at Luka Doncic. He's not very fast, but he's skilled. And a lot of these guys, where they're going. The spots that they're trying to get to, and you still can't stop it. I think it would be the same with Larry Bird. Go ahead.
How about the flip side, though, as you're talking about 25-year increments? So now you're relying on 25 years later for the average NBA fan to have gone back and remembered a Dominique Wilkins, who was at this point, you're talking about 30 years, 40 years past, you know what I mean? So it's basically relying on elder statesmen or elder basketball fans to take a stance and put a stamp on guys that were missed out on originally. But you know what I mean? Because the younger guys, or the younger fans at the very least, how much of them are really going back and watching older footage? And even if they are now, they're looking back from 25 years ago. They're not looking back 50 years ago. You know what I mean? So
I do.
So
it depends on who the voters are, because even at 50 years ago, Paul Arison, a lot of these guys, the young people, even during then, probably didn't see these guys play. So it depends on who's. And Shaq made it. Shaq was only in the league 4 years when they
made the top 50. I didn't know that. I was about to say, maybe Shaq is going to get on there, but he already had made it.
Shaq made it, and he was only in the league 4 years. At the time. So that's a very good question. If anybody in the chat knows who's going to be voting, is it going to be media? I hope not.
Right?
But you know what? I think it was basketball players because
I think so too.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, I think he voted the last time. So I think it's players. But if anybody knows that for sure, I definitely should have checked that. Who is going to be doing the voting? Knicks Real Talk, Devon, appreciate you.
Reverend Devon.
Most of the games weren't televised. Did Moses Malone make the
Yeah.
Moses Malone did make it. Yeah, he did make. So it's going to be interesting. I would like to see Bernard King make it, and they're not. From what I understand, they're not going to keep the 50. I think it's going to be a whole new voting, just the top 75. From what I understand, I don't think it's the media, but I don't know for sure. So if anybody knows, let me know.
Steph, it says that the voters for the 50 greatest players, when they originally came out with the list, was a mix of players and media.
Okay.
And coaches and coaches alike. So it's like a collaborative effort.
Okay, so it'll probably be the same way. Yeah. So the Knicks. So if they're gonna start over, and I believe they are, is there any Knick who's on this team that you think may be in jeopardy of not making the 75th anniversary team? The Busher? Yeah.
But is that because of skill set, or is that because of time passed?
It's just because there's too many players that played his position that are better than him. That didn't make the list. And the Busher wasn't I hate using this word, but alpha on any of those Knicks teams. He just was a really solid defensive player. Even back in Detroit when he played, a really good defensive player, can score a little bit. And he was one of the early favorite players of some kids around the league.
Walton's on that list, right?
Yes.
I love that
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah. Calvin Whitaker, appreciate you. Queen, the voters is the media and the Players Association and coaches. Okay. Yeah, I agree. I think Dave DeBusschere is at risk of not making the team. And again, when I'm thinking about it, I'm not thinking about these other guys are better than him. I'm just saying they're better in their era than Dave DeBusschere was in his. That's how I'm seeing it. Anybody you think is a lock to make the 75th anniversary team?
That wasn't on the list?
That is on the list now. That's a lock to make the next team.
P. Hume.
Pat, yeah.
I
Willis.
think that's a lock. You think Willis is a lock?
MVP. He was MVP of the league. Last MVP we've ever had. The only MVP we've ever had.
Clyde.
And Clyde, yeah.
Those three are a lock. I think Earl Monroe makes it too. Earl of Pearl?
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see. All right. That's going to be interesting. Somebody said Walton shouldn't be on there. I know he was hurt. He was hurt a lot during his career. Calvin Whitaker, with all due respect, my brothers, you wrong about that. Dave DeBusschere was nasty. He played for the Detroit Pistons and was traded to the Knicks. It was nasty with Detroit. and
no disrespect to Dave DeBusschere.
Somebody good is going to get left off.
That's just how it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, Dave DeBusschere, there's other guys at his position that's better than him that didn't make the list. I'm sorry. It just is what it is. No disrespect to him, though. I know he's a baller, His number's hanging up in the rafters. I want to get one of his jerseys, but,
Wilkins and McAdoo. They didn't, are they saying that they won't make it? Did Wilkins? I'm sure Wilkins.
Lenny Wilkins had to make it.
He made it. McAdoo made the team? Oh, it is in alphabetical order. So no, McAdoo didn't.
Bob McAdoo
he didn't make the team. Yeah, that's gonna be interesting. And the same, with the 50th anniversary team, there's gonna be a lot of debate, a lot of disappointment, especially if they're taking players off, right? If your spot is not secured, there's gonna be a lot of debate over that.
And you know how Knicks fans do. You take up a Knicks player. Oh, it's the whole NBA conspiracy. They just hate the Knicks. You know how that goes already. So just prepare for it.
All right. Okay. Let's move to the next segment where we talk about the Knicks roster and how the Knicks roster matches up with other rosters in the Eastern Conference. We've been talking about this for a few weeks. I thought last season it was close. You go on a 3-game winning streak, you could create separation. You lose 4 or 5 games in a row, you lost ground. Charlotte was right in the thick of things, and then Hayward went down. They dropped, I think, to like the 10th seed or something like that. So it was similar last year. I think it's going to be even tougher this year. I mean, most teams made, in my opinion, significant upgrades. And I think injury, how a team gels with each other, it's going to say a lot. And I think that's the same for the Knicks. In my opinion, if everything breaks right, the Knicks could finish 3. But if everything breaks wrong and players break down, I could see us in the 8th seed. I could see us in the play-in, right? Depending on, how bad it gets. But I want to talk a little bit. We did the 5th and the 6th seed last year, which was Atlanta and Miami. We talked about them last week. And we're going to do Boston, who finished 7th, and we're going to do Washington, who finished 8th. So let's start with Boston, who finished 7th. And I don't even think they were that far behind us. Maybe 2-3 games, if that much. I have to check the roster. No, it was actually 4 games. They finished 4 games behind us. So let's pull up Boston's roster so we could talk a little bit about them and where we think we match up. Dennis Schroeder is new, right? Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Grant Williams, Robert Williams are the projected starters. Obviously, in training camp, this can change. Marcus Smart, they picked up Josh Richardson, Aaron Nesmith, his second year. Jabari Parker is back. And their center rotation is pretty tight. I mean, Robert Williams, I would think that he's going to start, right? They just gave him a new contract, I think 4 years, $54 million. Al Horford is back. Enes Kanter is back. Taco Fall is situational. I think this is a deep roster. In my opinion, which is why I think the Eastern Conference is going to be a dogfight, game in and game out. They lost Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier, who they picked up at the trading deadline from Orlando. But even with those two guys leaving, I think they still have a pretty good roster. Before we get into comparing the roster, guys, what do you think about Boston and their roster so far?
I'm not afraid. I think their bench might be a little underrated coming in. I think they have a very, very good bench. But it still holds. Outside of the two, Jaylen and Jason, I don't see anybody who's really a threat to light it up. Marcus might get you 15 to 20 on a given night. I don't see another guy on that team that is a threat for 30 on any given night. Not saying nobody can get 30, but just like on any given night. I'm not afraid. And I also think they're gonna have potential issues with a new coach coming in. So they're gonna have to learn his identity. He's gonna have to learn that theirs and their own identity as a team. And then the question of, even if the last coach, Brad Stevens, if he potentially lost the locker room, but he wasn't removed and just given another position, how does that mesh? That's a new position for him as well. So how does he figure that out? I think there's more questions with that team than answers. So I'm not too concerned coming in.
So I think it's always a dogfight anytime you talk Knicks versus Boston or New York versus Boston and anything, period. These teams are going to go at each other. They're going to fight. The difference is with Boston, last season Boston had a lot of key injuries due to COVID, due to some other issues. In Boston, I feel like if they would have been fully healthy, they would have been past us in the standings last year. That's just my opinion, if they would have been fully healthy. But we weren't fully healthy either, right? So, that's the argument that, we will always make to go against Boston. But to me, Boston, I feel like people are really sleeping on them. I know that they have a new coach that's coming in, but they still have two young, two-way wings that can close the game. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, those guys are no joke. And if those guys are healthy, combined with a Marcus Smart, who's the third piece of their young core, I think they can be really, really good. It's just a matter of if they stay healthy or not, and if they're able to play for the new coach. So I think they're really good. I think Boston's really good.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think that other than the top three, I think the top three teams have questions too, but I think regardless, there's a good chance that they still finish in the top three, right? I think after that, every team after that has question marks that could change their seeding in the Eastern Conference, right? We have question marks as well. How many games is Kemba going to play? Is Rose going to stay healthy? How is Fournier and Kemba, how are they going to mesh, with, as a team? So every team has question marks. I think that their roster, that's the same thing they're saying too. Like I'm saying, if Mitchell Robinson pops, if Kemba is Kemba, that really moves us up in the standing. I'm sure they're sitting there saying if Dennis Schroeder becomes his best self, like who he was was when he was in Oklahoma City, that really bodes well for us. We got Al Horford and Enes Kanter. So I'm sure the same thing we're saying about the Knicks, the Boston fans are saying, about them. I think Boston is going to be a formidable foe. I think that, their starters is legit. And if Robert Williams, if he doesn't pan out, he's not ready to be that starter. I think Horford and Enes, between the both of them, can definitely do the job. And the thing that I like about them that can't be understated, they got lockdown defenders. Like they Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, and Tatum, all of those guys can play really, really good defense. And Schroeder too. And we have good offensive players, but they're going to make it tough. They're going to make it tough for us. So then it becomes, do we have those defensive players that's going to make it just as tough for them? I'm not so sure. So I think that I think it's going to be a dogfight. We played them 4 times, and I think it's going to be 2-2. What do you guys think? Mm-hmm.
Yep. So I think 2-2 is I think that's pretty good. It's even. Even I think they're gonna definitely win some games from us, and we're gonna win some from them in Boston, just like we did last season. But the thing that I think that we kind of like missed and humped over, right? We mentioned Tatum, we mentioned Brown, we mentioned Marcus Smart and the good defenders that they have. The biggest problem from the Celtics for the Celtics that they've had over the past few years was in the paint. Centers. Now they have 2 premier rebounding centers that can get you second chance opportunities, and Enes Kanter and Al Horford. That is huge for them. Now something that they were missing that they now currently have as a backup / starter. So I think that's just going to make Boston a much better team. I'm not sure how the standings are going to work out. I feel like you said, it's the way it a couple injuries here and there can change a couple seeds or whatever. But I think once this team makes the playoffs, they're going to be really, really formidable. But I agree with you, 2-2 against Boston.
Right. Ally Wise, appreciate you. Their defense was nowhere close to ours last year. Why y'all think they better? I don't know if our defense is going to be the same as well. It remains to be seen. Knicks Real Talk, Divine, appreciate you. Not a lot of veteran experience to go with a first year coach, but they are a good team. And somebody else said, Pudge Nice. Nobody on that team can guard D Rose, Jules, and Kemba. Mm-hmm. I mean, listen. Marcus Smart is going to make it hard for whoever he's guarding. He is an elite defender. Right. So if he's guarding Kemba, he's going to make it hard for him. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, like those guys are pretty good defenders, and they don't need to stop them. It's just making it, being disruptive and making it hard. I think it's going to be tough when the Knicks and Boston go up. I don't think it's going to be 3-1. I don't think it's going to be 4-0. I think it's going to be 2-2. And I guess the last question is, do you think the Knicks, without predicting the standings, just do you think the Knicks will finish ahead of Boston in the standings?
I do, and I do think it's going to be 3-1. I agree with whom you just shouted out. I don't think they have an answer for our guard play. Even as good as Marcus Smart is, he's in the open floor, like with Kemba at his best, Marcus Smart doesn't have an answer for him. I think he can guard him in situations, but like from inbound coming up the court, I'll put my money on Kemba all day. I definitely put my money on a fresh Derrick Rose who's not having to play 35 minutes a game. So 20 minutes, 24 minutes from those guys rather than 35 minutes, I take those guys' offense over Boston's defense. And then nobody mentioned Biggs or Mitchell Robinson in particular. I think he has an opportunity to dominate the Boston Celtics. They don't have the height. They don't have the athleticism. If our guards are finding him, I think he could dominate that team. I think he might have one of his best performances against the Celtics, Mitchell Robinson.
Tone, here's why I disagree with you. First, I think the Boston Celtics will finish ahead of the Knicks in the standings. I believe Boston's going to be a top 4 seed. I believe the Knicks are going to be a top 5 seed. That's number one. Number two, in regards to Mitchell Robinson, remember when we played Oklahoma City when they had Al Horford and Mitchell Robinson had no answer as far as stopping Al Horford from shooting a three? Remember that? I think that's another part of Mitchell Robinson's game that he needs to take to the next level. He has not shown that he's able to do that yet. Can he? Absolutely. That's the next.
Rookie, you said was Boston Celtics Al Horford?
No, when Al Horford was on OKC last season. Last season, in the beginning of the season, when we played Oklahoma City, and we literally had no answer for Al Horford, his ability to knock down a three ball. No answer for it at all. So I think that's the next step in Mitchell Robinson's improvement. He can improve, absolutely. I haven't seen it yet, so I don't think Mitchell Robinson is going to dominate Al Horford the way you say. And again, I think Boston's going to finish ahead of New York in the standings.
With better guard play, I think he can. I think he eats down low. I think he's a lob threat.
But even when you look at the matchups, right? So Dennis Schroeder and Kemba, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum against R.J. Barrett and Fournier. So just on the wings with Fournier and Barrett and Tatum and Brown, who are you giving the edge to?
Oh, it's easy.
I mean, if RJ's guarding Tatum, it's gonna be tough for him. 100%. It's gonna be a problem. But best case scenario, they getting each other in foul trouble. I'm not necessarily worried about Tatum's defense on RJ. We're just gonna need. That's when we're gonna need the RJ that Josh wants to see. The aggressive, take control RJ. He's not in that particular matchup. He's not going to be able to necessarily just let the game come to him. He's going to have to attack. He's going to have to be aggressive. He's going to have to put pressure on a Jason Tatum. And it's kind of the same thing with Fournier and Brown. Brown is going to be difficult for Fournier to guard Brown, but I think the way Fournier plays, that goes against the way Brown plays defense. He's not going to want to chase Fournier around. He's not going to lock him down, so to speak. He's better with guys that like to use their body, post up, and things of that and that matchup. Great defender. But when you talk about chasing a guy around and lateral movement and running around screens, that's not Jaylen Brown's specialty. That's not where he excels. So I think they both have the matchup advantage offensively. We have it offensively. They have it offensively. It's really going to be about if they can stop us or if we can stop them.
I mean, that's an easy way to look at it. That's a simple way, but I think it's way more nuanced than that. And these guys have, Boston has proven that they give us tough matchups every time we play them. Outside of the game, we'll beat them by 40 points or whatever the case may be on their court when they didn't have their best players. I think that it's different when those guys are actually playing. Boston is the real deal. When they're healthy, well coached, disciplined, when they're fully healthy, Boston is up there in the Eastern Conference. No question.
I mean,
they've proven it.
They have, but they haven't. They've proven to be a stagnant team, a team that really hasn't got over any hump. They've been at the same level or either the same expectation. A playoff team, not necessarily a contender. They haven't made it to the finals yet, and then they regress.
Because they had injuries last season, Tone. They've been put in that situation of being called the top a favorite in the East, Eastern Conference favorite in the East. Like they've been in that same window for like 5-6 years. That's what I'm saying. And they haven't been there. They haven't gotten performing there,
but they haven't gotten better. So
they're still at that level though.
I don't necessarily agree that they are, because how long do you stay at that level? Like eventually you're gonna regress. Atlanta used to be that team for like 4 or 5 years in a row. The Nets, when they was in Jersey, was that team for like 4 or 5 years in a row. I mean, there's a bunch of teams that stay there but never got over the hump. And then the additions that they brought in, that doesn't tell me that, the guys they brought in put them over the hump. They brought Al Horford back. Great guy
Josh Richardson
for that team.
and Dennis Schroeder as well.
But
Josh Richardson
he's taking a step back from who he used to be on the Celtics. So to think you're going to get the same production from Al Horford that you did when he was with the Celtics before, not going to happen.
But he doesn't need to be that. He doesn't need to be that guy. Listen, I think that they have the advantage at shooting guard and small forward, in my opinion. I think we have the advantage at power forward with Jules. I think we may have the advantage at center with Mitch over Robert Williams, but they got 3 in that rotation. We got 2. So if you want to say it's even, or you give the Knicks the edge there at point guard, we got to see which Dennis Schroeder we talking about. Are we talking about the one who, had difficulty with the Lakers? He was playing with LeBron. LeBron was on the ball all the time. It's not that easy to play with a guy like that. Are we talking about the Schroeder who was in OKC? So if you want to give the Knicks the edge at point guard, I think that's even, because Marcus Smart. I think we're underestimating this guy. But I think in the shooting guard and small forward position, I think I would give them the edge. I think Jason Tatum is better than Fournier and RJ Barrett. And I think Jaylen Brown is as well, in my opinion. So I give them the edge there. We could take the edge at power forward and center. And, we could say which Dennis Schroeder, but which Kemba are we getting as well, right? So I think that's going to help tell the story. So if you want to say we're even at point guard, if you want to give us the edge, you can. But I think that, listen, we Knicks fans, we Knicks fans. So no matter what, we see the best case scenario in the Knicks. Kemba is going to be Kemba. Mitch is going to pop. Yep. RJ is going to come into his own. And then when it comes to the other team, they got a rookie coach, so that makes it seem like, but both teams have all of these teams have question marks. Things do have to break a certain way. But if things break that way for them with their coach, with Dennis Schroeder playing the way he plays, they could be formidable, So I think it's going to be
I'm a disbeliever. I think they've been there throughout the past.
This is a different team, though.
Every year it's been a different team, and this is the year that I don't necessarily see how much better they got. When they got Kyrie, it was like, oh, look how much better this team with Kyrie. When they got Kemba, it was the same thing. Granted, we got Kemba now as well, but you know what I mean? Like they've gotten better as the years gone on. They make these improvements, and on paper, it's always been all right. This is their year. Oh, they got better. I'm saying this year, I don't see how much better they necessarily got, but they're still being held in that same regard of the past 5-6 years.
I'm not even talking about the past 6 years.
We're a team that the trajectory-wise, we're moving up. So that's the way I'm looking at it. We're moving up. I don't see them necessarily moving up. If anything, they're stagnant. They're in the same spot.
I don't think so. I don't think you add Dennis Schroeder, Josh Richardson, Al Horford, and Enes Kanter, because that was one of their issues too, that center position. And I'm not even talking about the past 3, 4, 5 years. I'm just talking about their roster right now and our roster right now. We got now we got Kemba, but see, Kemba, there's question marks, right? If Kemba was healthy, I would say we got Randall, we got Kemba, we got 2. I know for sure they got 2 in Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. No question marks, none. Easy. And I would say I would put Marcus Smart in there as well. I think if things break well for us and not for them, we finish ahead of them. If things break well for them and not for us, they're going to finish ahead.
I just want to say these last few things. Tony, go by what you said in regards to the Boston Celtics being stagnant. They were stagnant in a position of conference finals, right? So by that logic that you're saying about Boston still being stagnant and them not improving, we're not even at the conference finals level yet.
They made the conference finals last year?
But again, their two main guys were hurt for the majority of the season. Tone, let's be objective here. I mean that's what happened to them. If not for that, Boston would have been way better than what they put on the floor last season. The second thing that I want to say is the two guys that I'm talking about, not Marcus Smart, Tatum and Brown. Those are all-star players. RK Barrett's not an all-star yet. Neither is Evan Fournier. I don't think he's ever been in his career. So Boston has that advantage. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that part of it. You know what I mean?
Kemba's been an all-star. Randall's just been an all-star. We haven't even mentioned D Rose, who has had the best year of his year since who knows when. But we're talking about potential sixth man of the year. We're talking about him not having to take on 32 minutes a game now. We're talking about him not necessarily having to start and can maintain that six-man role. I don't know. I don't fear Boston.
But nobody's fearing them. But these guys are not all-stars now, though. Kemba was an all-star. D Rose was an all-star. D Rose is not all-star caliber now.
We're talking about an injury or a down season for Kemba, and look at his numbers. It's like on a down year, on an injured year. Like, I mean, I'm not going to discredit.
I don't have a question with Kemba about his game. I know there's other people questioning his game. He lost a step. I don't have those concerns about Kemba. My concern with him was the only stat, in my opinion, that counts is that he played 42 games. That's a big stat. You know what I mean? So yeah, the games that he did play, he produced, but he played 42 games. And this is my issue with the Knicks. Too many question marks. And I will go back to this. The Knicks entered free agency with assets. And they signed a player with a question mark. And that's why when we're talking about these rosters and we're comparing rosters, we got to say if Kemba is healthy, if Rose stays healthy, if Mitch does this, if this, and some of these players on these teams, there's no question marks. There's no question marks. Like, these players are bona fide right now. So again, I'm gonna pick the Knicks to finish above Boston if Kemba is healthy.
If both teams pan out, if both teams max out, you got the Knicks or the Celtics.
If everything is together for both teams, I think it's close. As
far as what you mean, the standings, or you mean in the playoff series?
I'm talking about standings. I think the playoffs is a whole nother monster, and we have a whole nother thing to prove in the playoffs. I would never combine the two.
I think if it works out for both teams fully healthy, I think the Knicks have a little bit of a better bench. So I would pick the Knicks in the standings.
All right, then I guess we all agree then. I mean, you didn't make a definitive decision, Queen, but you said close. I'll say
everybody
close.
Is injured, but I just
close.
Have more question marks than they do. But
right. And that's where I'm coming from with it.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. I just want to shout out the chat. Who's Mark? Mark, can you please DM me? I've been trying to get in contact with you so you could be on the show. Boston is a premier team, he says. Pudge Nice. Again, Boston is not stopping our bench. You might be right about that. I do like our bench, and I think that does give us the edge. I know you weren't here, Josh, last week when we went over Miami. I know you love Miami, and I do too. That was the only reason I had the Knicks finishing above, was because of the bench. And that's if we're healthy. Yeah, shout out Mike Johnson, T-Mac. The phones are open. Anybody who wants to call in and give your takes on Boston and the Knicks, please do so. AK Sauergard, New York, Beans Douglas, it's me, all of y'all. Appreciate you. Nothing but Nick Sim. Just being an all-star doesn't mean anything. What happened to Boston with all-stars this season? Yeah. Yeah.
They were hurt for the majority of the season. That's a terrible comparison. If those guys are healthy, Boston's way better than what they were last season in the standings. There's no question about that.
And you think they would have finished ahead of us if they were healthy? Probably.
Probably.
I mean, we were on a roll, though. We were on a roll. Remember that 10 game?
Yeah, we definitely were on a roll. But again, I think, look at the stand. Put it to you this way: if being the standings, being what they were last season. If the Knicks would have played Boston in the playoffs, Boston would have took us to 7 games. So the standings really don't really mean too much to me, at least. The standings don't really mean anything because
Hey, Josh, that would have been an improvement from what we did in the playoffs, though.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
before we move on to Washington, are there any individual matchups you're looking forward to seeing
with these two teams?
Yeah.
I don't know about the matchups, but I definitely want to see Kemba show out and tell these guys, y'all traded me, okay, and Fournier could have the same type of mentality. You guys didn't retain me. I wasn't worth what I wanted. So I guess the 1 and 2 matchup.
I'm gonna say point guard. Going piggybacking off what Tony said, Boston's Kemba's former team. He definitely has a lot to prove to that organization. And also Schroeder. Schroeder has a lot to prove as well because he put himself out there. He wanted $20 million and he only got
5.8.
5.8. So he got less than what Kemba got. So I think the point guard matchup is the one I'm really focusing on with that one.
Yeah. I would like to see RJ Barrett. I would like to see our wings go up against their wings. I would like to see that. I think they have the advantage, but I would like to see that.
Can I ask you this, Steph? Who would you put? Would you put RJ on Tatum or Brown? Like, and when I say that,
I would put him on Tatum,
why?
but I wouldn't expect only because he's a better. I think he's going to be a better defender than Fournier, but I still think he loses the matchup. Yeah, I think he's a better. Probably will be a better defender, and let's not sleep on Fournier defensively as well. I think he's a solid defender. He's a willing defender, and I think if an offensive player gets to their spots, it's not because of lack of effort. They were faster than him. He got picked off or whatever. He's definitely a willing defender. I think RJ. It remains to be seen. That's another thing I'm gonna look for in preseason too, is RJ Barrett's defense. Because listen, without Bullock, he's probably gonna have to play the best wing defender on the opposing team, right?
Hey, Sim said people act like Tatum was out all season. He missed 8 games last season.
Okay, how many games was Brown out?
That he didn't put. I don't know if that was directed. I don't know if that was directed to you, but I mean, 8 games. I thought it was more too. Even like with the COVID, that's included in the COVID protocol and all. That's not a lot of games. I don't know how many games Brown missed.
Yeah, but it's obvious he wasn't the same player when he came back from COVID. That's obvious. I mean, but
Jaylen Brown played 58.
72, so
68, 14 games.
That's not a lot compared to our injuries. D Rose missed the significant stretch. Mitch obviously missed the significant stretch. And we had a bunch of shuffled players in and out.
Yeah, but listen, Mitch, yes, but we had Noel who came and stepped in. That you're not replacing Brown with anybody on your roster. And to the guy, Rich Boy, Steph's so negative sometimes. Why am I negative? Because I'm going to give a nuanced take. Because I'm not going to say the Knicks are better just because I'm rooting for the Knicks. That's what makes me negative. So be it. I had the Knicks finishing 4th. I had them finishing above Miami. But when we're breaking down each roster, let's be realistic about it. It can't just be the Knicks. The Knicks are better. The bench is better. The starters are better. We're gonna win every matchup. I mean, come on.
You guys got Boston over Miami?
I don't.
I didn't have Boston in at all, remember? So I have to go back. I forgot to put Boston in the standings at all.
So you making up for that tonight. I get it. Listen, and that's the thing. Yeah. I think Miami ultimately has a better chance of beating us out than Boston does in the standings this coming season.
If all breaks well. If all breaks well.
All breaks well for all teams.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I think that's why I think, and like I said, it's gonna be the Eastern. You think it was close last year? It's gonna be close this year, and injuries and things like that, fit or lack of fit, is really gonna impact where you end up in the standings. But let's move off of Boston. A lot of people got a lot of feelings about Boston. Let's see. Maybe there's less heat when we talk about Washington. All right. So this is their starters. You know, they brought in Dinwiddie that's going to play. I mean, obviously the starters can change before the start of the season, but for so far, Dinwiddie at point guard, Bradley Beal, Kuzma at the 3, Huchimara at the 4. Thomas Bryant, I believe, is still injured, so I'm not sure when he's coming back. They added Caldwell Pope. They added Montrezl Harrell, Aaron Holiday. Now, Raul Nato was the backup last year. Aaron Holiday may beat him out for the backup. If you remember, Aaron Holiday played for the Indiana Pacers last season, and he's solid as well. And I would think he may beat out Nato. Nato was good for them, actually. They got Corey Kispert, a rookie. I'm not sure. I would think he's going to get playing time. But when you look at it, I'm not sure where. And Isaiah Todd, also a rookie. Before we get into the same questions that I asked about Boston, anything stands out to you about the roster overall, Tony?
If Beltrans plays like he played last year, you definitely see Crisper getting minutes. Mm-hmm. So that stood out immediately. And then Aaron Holiday, I agree. I think he beats out the second, the second string. So with that being said, I mean, I ain't gonna lie. I definitely underestimated this team and this roster. The situational lineup alone looks to be a decent lineup. Even if you swap out Beltrans and Crisper, I think that still is a real good second unit and third unit. Ultimately, I just don't think they have enough. A lot is going to depend on, obviously, Dinwiddie's health and if Kuzma takes a step forward. But I think we're a better team even if everything falls right for them. And everything falls right for us. I think we top them.
I agree with Tone. I think I'm a big Russell Westbrook fan, as everyone knows. I'm a huge Russell Westbrook fan, and it's kind of disappointing what they did last season on the Wizards. But I think a lot of that was primarily due to them giving Davis Bertans all that money and him just being absolutely terrible. I mean, god awful was Davis Bertans last season. He was someone that we were looking to bring in to help us out with our shooting, and he was just bad. So if you look at it from that standpoint, I do think they have a little bit more depth now with Kuzma and Montrezl Harrell and KCP. But at the same time, I think when we're fully healthy and these guys are fully healthy, I think we're a better team, period. I think there's no one on this team that can stop Julius Randle. Even if you put Montrezl Harrell on him, I feel like Julius Randle can still get his. And then this is a different kind of 2-3 matchup than with Boston, right? Here, the Wizards only have Bradley Beal. They don't really have anybody else that can really go out and score like that. Right. I feel like we would win the 2-3 matchup, the wing battle against the Wizards. So I'm going with us, all day, every day of the week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Healthy Dinwiddie and Kuzma taking the next step though, that could change a lot. You know what I mean? Now you talk about, 60 points, maybe even 70 points between the three of them. At their
Yeah.
best.
Yeah. I mean, do you think Bradley Beal scoring goes down, that he has to share the ball more? Oh, well, there's more, players, that demand the ball, so his scoring average may go down, but I don't think it's going less than 25.
Yeah, no, I think he's still in. I think he stays in that conversation for leading top scorer in the league. I think he's still gonna end up being in that top 5 at least in scoring in the NBA. I think it's really gonna be about what kind of help the supporting cast can give him. If he takes a step back scoring wise, they win less games.
Right.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Go ahead, Tom.
I agree with that. Definitely, I think Bradley Beal, if he is not going to be that same kind of player that he was for the Wizards these past few years, then they're definitely, I think they're kind of regressing. They're going to need Bradley Beal to maintain that all-star level pace, that all-star level scoring that he has in order for them to even contend or compete in the Eastern Conference, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I see offensively, other than Dinwiddie, Beal, if Kuzma takes the next step, Huchamara. Is it Huchamara or Hachimara? He did Hachimara, okay. Huchamama, right. Hachimara did he played well, last year as well. Thomas Bryant was big for them. This is one of the reasons I lost my fantasy league. All my players got injured. Thomas Bryant got injured early, and he was a good, double guy for them. But still, I think the Knicks are better all around. I think our defense will be better than theirs. And I think you can give Bradley Beal his 30. And I think we would still, I think we'll still beat them. I say in a 4-game series, not the playoff series, during the regular season, I say we win 3-1. Montreal Harrell has something to prove. So he's going to come back and he's going to play like he's on fire. Daniel Gafford is good. I mean, he filled in, okay when Bryant went down. But I still just think we're a deeper team, 1 through 10, in that respect. So I say 3-1. You guys agree with that, or you guys think something else?
I'm gonna go with a sweep.
They're not gonna get not one game.
Nope. Nope.
Nothing too, rich boy.
This one, I kind of want to say 3-1, but I'm not going to sleep on the Wizards. I think DC, they can turn it up. They can score. They scored a lot of points last season. I think they're a little bit better defensively now with Montrezl Harrell. So I think they'll be formidable. And one last thing I want to say about the Wizards, they have Denny Avdia. Now the Knicks had an opportunity to draft this guy. We had an opportunity to get him. He would have been perfect at the small forward last season. Perfect to give us some scoring. They went with Obi Toppin in a different direction. I think he still feels some kind of way about that. I'm going to say 3-1, us, or 2-2.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a close game. I don't think it's going to be any blowouts. Is there any position where you feel like they have an advantage, and is there any position where you think they have the advantage?
Just Bradley Beal. I mean, just a 2-guard, really.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. I agree, and I think our bench is stronger as well. Can we pull up the Knicks?
I was just gonna say that, like, you could probably go across the bench lineup and the situational, and we win them out. It's really one guy on that team that we don't got an answer for.
The only thing I will say is that we have 2 rookies in our situational, and Vildoza, right, and Knox. So I'm not sure how strong our situational roster is. I mean, players are. We going off a summer league, but the league itself is way different. And Taj Gibson is getting up there in age, and Kevin Knox. We don't know what we're gonna get. So I'm not sure how strongly I feel about our situation.
You're right. I definitely was basing it off summer league.
Okay.
I can't front.
Okay. But they may surprise us, right? Like Quickly did, right? It remains to be seen. Let me just get back to the chat. Appreciate you, Calvin Whitaker, who's Mark, of course. I got to get back to Rich Boy, love you, Steph. Listen, no, I love all of you guys. The chat, you guys support us. You support MBK. You support this show. It's never ever personal, and it's okay if you guys disagree with me. It's okay to say you disagree with me, and you're not the only one. I get that. I wouldn't say a lot, but people do say I'm negative. I'm not sure, but why? But maybe because I have an alternate take. I don't know.
They don't like me, so.
Right. I got some smoke with my Kimber take.
And I never heard them call neither one of y'all stupid. So
right. T-Mark, exactly. And Bill will have to score 40 and 50 that night. You guys definitely hit that like button. Sister Queen, Washington roster looked pretty strong to me. I won't count them out from the 6th seed in the East. Wow. Quiet Money. I love you too, Quiet Money. Definitely. Listen, like we said, if things break right with a team and somebody just takes off, especially somebody you're not expecting, like what if Bertans just comes back disappointed about how he played last year and just starts shooting lights out? That changes things for them. If Mitch doesn't stay healthy, it changes stuff for us. So if I'm doing it as if it goes right for every team, them at their best, us at our best, who's gonna win? I think we finish ahead of Washington in the standings. Anything else about anything we discussed today that you guys want to? Maybe you forgot to say something, or is there anything else you want to bring up about the Knicks that's not even related to what we talked about today?
I actually had a question I wanted to bring up on my show, and I totally forgot it. So maybe I'll get your answer, and maybe I'll get Josh's answer. Do you think the lawsuit that Noel's has any implications for the Knicks down the road or later? Do you think it jeopardizes a relationship with maybe a Chris what's the guy's name? Paul's clients, or his relationship in dealing with the Knicks, or do you think he separates that with his former client? And just to add one more little niche on it, what do you think Leon Rose gave him any advice in this situation, being former agent and knowing the inner workings of what is legal, what isn't, what things of that nature?
Can I go first?
Yeah.
I think that lawsuit has absolutely no effect on the Knicks. It has no effect on potential Rich Paul Clutch Sports clients coming to the Knicks. I believe this is a huge conspiracy that's trying to get cooked up if the Knicks don't pick up someone else in free agency. Listen, I think this is a personal matter between Rich Paul and Nerlens Noel, and I think it has huge implications for the league overall. But I think the Knicks are completely separate from this, and I think this is a non-story, potential story.
So real quick, the only implications, it wouldn't be specifically to the Knicks. If it affects the Knicks, it would affect them the same way it affects any other team. Okay.
Yeah, I can't say that I've been following it that much. I did read a few articles on it. I don't think so either. Yeah, I don't think so. And I definitely, were you also asking if it's going to impact his play this season?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay.
How about the Leon Rose advice, or do you think he's in that situation? You think he stays out of it, or do you think maybe he gave him some advice or counsel or something of that nature?
I think
Whether before or after.
I think Leon Rose is completely separate from this conversation. This is a agent client relationship. I don't think Leon Rose, but just because he was a former agent, is getting involved in this. Maybe he does give some advice on the side or whatever the case may be, but this is completely agent client. And there's different rules that go against, in the civil side of it, that go against third parties getting involved, particularly from NBA teams. So
Right.
yeah.
Interesting, because I think the only way he wins is if a third party is willing to speak up and say, "Hey, I reached out to your agent and didn't get a response." But if they're not willing to go on record, I don't see how he wins at all.
But I thought I read something that they were going to try to go for a settlement anyway. That they were going to try to settle. That the
both sides,
right. That the Players Association, and this could be old news because I know things change fast, was trying to broker a settlement.
I mean, that's the smart thing to do, because I think the lawsuit, like Josh says, has implications throughout the league. It's not a good look for the league. So I think that would be the smart thing for the players. You said Players Association. That would be smart on their behalf, just to try to get it from being within the public eye and kind of like, get rid of the situation. But I mean, that's really that's up to Noel and how he feels, how strongly he feels about it.
Right. We'll see. Josh, you had something. There's something somebody said in the chat I wanted to bring up. But go ahead, Josh.
Oh no, that's pretty much all I want to say about that. I think it's just a non something that could to use as, the NBA is conspiring against the Knicks and Clutch Sports is conspiring against the Knicks and LeBron didn't want to come to the Knicks because of this and that. And I just believe it's just not the case.
Right. But did you want to say something else? Bring up something else?
No, that was it.
Just in general.
I don't have anything.
Okay. Somebody said in the chat, "It's me, appreciate you." That's why I knew we never wanted Jalen Johnson, because of the CAA versus Clutch Cold War. I mean, do you think it's that serious that it's impacting who we draft and who we go after in free agency?
I don't.
It's hard for me to say. I think, like integrity reasons, I hope not.
Right.
But you know what I mean? CAA and those kind of rumors and agency. Not saying there was a beef between CNA and Clutch, but we've heard of beefs between different agencies. So when if that was the case, you never, that doesn't get rectified easily, just especially with a agent becoming a front office in a front office role. But it's all speculation for me. I hope none of that is true. I hope it doesn't affect us. We don't need any type of negative controversy. We are on such a good path right now. The front office is doing such a great job right now. We hopefully they do stay out of it. But who knows if Noel would speak to Leon and ask him or ask for insight based off his knowledge of being an agent and knowing certain things, inner workings. So that's where that question was based on, as far as like Leon Rose aspect of it. I don't think it was like a conspiracy side. It was more of Noel's asking for his knowledge because he's a knowledgeable figure in that side of sports.
So
I just think.
go ahead.
I just think that naturally between agencies, there's going to be agencies competing for players and competing for talent. So naturally, from a capitalist standpoint, of course, there's going to be some competition there. But I just believe it's the whole CAA thing, the whole Kentucky connection, and all that stuff that people talk about with the Knicks. I feel like there's a little bit of that there, but I don't think. I believe the Knicks have some integrity, and they're not just building the team based off CAA clients and Kentucky players. I believe they're going to try to put the best possible team together as they can. Business affiliation aside.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. Because Jaylen Brown was sitting right there, a lottery type player at number 19. And the Knicks could have, they saved $2 million. They wound up drafting 4 players anyway, and they saved $2 million. But when you look at these other teams, they went after projects. Because my thinking was, the Knicks are in win now mode, so they don't really want to go after projects. But there were some teams that in the same boat as the Knicks who still took projects. Atlanta and Jalen Jones, the Clippers, they're championship contenders. They also took, projects. So if you're going to draft 4 players, okay, fine. You could take 2 that you think can contribute now, but I think it's okay to take, some projects that may pop later and get them in your system. So, I when I saw Jalen Johnson sitting there, I really thought the Knicks should have taking him, even if you don't think he's ready. Just have him in your system, groom him for down the line. And I don't think we're at a point where you could say, oh, well, we already got a power forward, so let's not draft this guy. I think you just draft the best players. Those things tend to work themselves out over time, right? Look what happened with Detroit and Carmelo Anthony, and it happens all the time. Oh, I'm not going to draft this guy because we have this. You draft the best player. And those other things tend to work themselves out. And if you have to move one, you move one. But I just hope that's not the case, where we're not going after certain free agents and not going after certain draft picks because they signed with another agency and giving preference to another particular agency whose player may not be the best player. I hope that's not going on, and
it could work on the other side too, though, where they keep their player away from us, where it has nothing to do with us not being interested. I mean, that's always
in free agency, yes, but not in the draft.
Both of those scenarios, the scenario that the Knicks are only going after certain players from a particular agency, and agents are holding out players from different teams because they don't like the team or whatever. Both of those situations are completely illegal. Completely illegal. That's not supposed to happen. Insider trading, I forget the sports term for it, but it's the equivalent to insider trading. So I just believe, and maybe I'm a little bit naive about this. I'm just, I believe that that's not happening.
Okay.
That's not happening. Players are gonna go to the team that they want to go to, and they pretty much need to make the decisions with their agents where they want to go. Which I don't know why Nerlens Noel is having this situation right now. He's the boss in that situation. You tell your agent what you want. If you want the money, you say, "Give me the money. I want to take it." Your agent will make you sign something saying, "I advise him not to do this." Just like in any court of law, the lawyer will be like, "I advise my client not to do this. He wants to do it anyway." So I believe it's that kind of relationship that's going on.
But Josh, if he's saying, or if teams are telling Noel, "Hey, we tried to reach out to your agent at this time, and this time, and this time, but you never got relayed the message," that's negligence on the agent.
No question. No question. I'm not talking about that part. I'm not talking about that part of it where he's accusing the agent of negligence. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about if Nerlens Noel, listen. In my opinion, Nerlens Noel, that was the biggest contract. Nerlens
shouldn't have turned down $70 million.
It's sitting right there in your face, Nerlens Noel. You're not going to get that money anywhere else. You're not that good offensively. No one knows you're going to be this good defensively until last season. You take that money. I don't know what his agent told him this, so he went. And no, I don't believe that. So I'm kind of on both sides of it. Obviously, Nerlens Noel is our dude, so I'm gonna stick with him. till the wheels fall off. But no, you got to be way smarter than that. You can't just believe everything your agent tells you about what deal you could potentially get when there's money sitting right in your face.
And it wasn't even his agent at the time, so that's even worse.
Yeah. So
shout out to Mark, who's hot. He hot that we didn't take Jalen Johnson. He said for $2 million, who does that? And we took Grimes over Johnson, who does that. Yeah, I just like to think that we're going after the best available players, no matter what agency they're from. And maybe I'm naive, but I would hate to think that we didn't draft a player that, was better than another player because they were from another agency. That's it. Any last words before we get out of here? Shout out to the chat. Thank you for sticking with us or staying with us and watching the show. Appreciate you. And those that are listening, I found out at the draft party, a lot of fans listen to us. They're not necessarily in the chat, who listen to us while they're driving, cooking, cleaning. Next day, appreciate you. Any last words, fellas?
As always, thanks for having me on, Queen.
Appreciate you.
I love what we're doing, this collaboration on Mondays.
Absolutely.
Shout out to the chat. Josh, always a pleasure speaking with you. Keep doing your thing as well. Looking forward to your future content. Your Black is Time.
Yes.
What's going on? Salute, y'all. It's like you said, always a pleasure. I enjoy coming on here on Mondays, giving my controversial takes so the fans can throw tomatoes at me or whatever it is. But God, I just want the people out there listening in the chat to know that I am a huge Knicks fan. I've been a Knicks fan all my life. I've seen the majority downs, the bad times with this team. So everything that I'm saying is from the heart. I'm not making this up. I'm not just trying to be controversial for the sake of being controversial. I love this team, but I have realistic expectations. And I'm fair. I try to keep it fair across the board. I don't, go after one player. I don't mince words just for the sake of mincing them. So I just want everyone out there to understand that. I'm a huge Knicks fan, and I'll continue supporting it. And if you disagree, just say you disagree. But understand that it's coming from the heart.
Right. And we can disagree without being disagreeable. And, let's just try to support each other. I know in the chat, somebody calls somebody stupid or a fool or whatever. Let's just be easy with each other, And we all here because we love our team. And we don't all have to have the same take and the same opinion, right? I appreciate you, Josh. I appreciate you, Tony Crow, Sim, the MBK network. We doing big things and we definitely trying to connect with you guys. So, stay tuned. We'll let you know when we're doing our live shows, any events that we're doing, so you guys can come out and we can chat in person. Next week, we're going to be going over the two teams that finished 9th and 10th. That was the Indiana Pacers, who finished 9th, and Charlotte Hornets. So we'll be comparing those two rosters next week. Ladies and gentlemen, it's always a pleasure to talk Knicks with you guys. I'll see you next week. And in the meantime, like we say in MBK, nothing but love. Spread love, ladies and gentlemen. See you next time.